Prabhupada's spiritual master and pioneer in spreading Lord Chaitanya's teachings beyond India, had longed for the day when Americans and Europeans would join with their Bengali brothers in Mayapur, chanting the holy names. Prabhupada wanted to purchase land, establish a Mayapur center for his Western disciples, and fulfill the dream of his spiritual predecessors. He had written to one of his god brothers, I wish to go to Mayapur to pay my respects to our beloved spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Sri Srila Prabhupada, as well as to complete the purchase of the land. So if Jagan Mohan Prabhu would accompany us to finish this transaction, it will be very kind of him. And I hope you will kindly request him to accompany us. The followers of Lord Chaitanya accept Mayapur, 110 miles north of Kolkata, to be identical with Vrindavan. 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna lived in Vrindavan performing his childhood pastimes. And 500 years ago, Lord Krishna appeared in Mayapur as Lord Chaitanya. For the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, therefore, Mayapur and Vrindavan are the two most dear and sacred places on earth. What better place for ISKCON to have its world headquarters than in Mayapur? But despite various attempts over the past several years, Srila Prabhupada had still not acquired property there. He had gone to Mayapur with Achyutananda in 1967, seen a plot of land and asked Achyutananda to try and get it. But Achyutananda and the Muhammadan owner had never reached an agreement. Some of Prabhupada's god brothers had temples and property in Mayapur, but they wouldn't help. Some even seemed to be working against him. When Prabhupada had written one of his god brothers in Mayapur asking him to help Achyutananda secure land, the god brother's secretary had replied that he was unable to do so. The secretary remarked, one would be very fortunate to get land in Mayapur. Prabhupada criticized his god brother's uncooperative spirit. He was becoming impatient. Why are we not able to get the land in Mayapur? He asked his disciple. This is dragging on for 300 years. Again, he wrote to one of his god brothers. Regarding propagating the name of Sri Mayapur as birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, it is going on regularly in our different literatures and books. If you kindly take the trouble of coming here conveniently, I can show you how we are giving publicity to the birth site of Lord Chaitanya. Perhaps you know that I begged from His Holiness Sripad Tirtha Maharaj a little piece of land in Mayapur for constructing a home for my Western disciple. But he refused the proposal. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted that the American and European devotees would come to Mayapur, and the prophecy is now fulfilled. Unfortunately, they are loitering in the streets of Kolkata without a suitable place in Mayapur. Do you think it is all right? Accompanied by a small party of men, Prabhupada took the train to Navadvip just across the Ganges from Mayapur. There they were met by members of the Devananda Mutt. Riding in rickshaws to the Devananda Mutt, the devotees were charmed by the rural atmosphere of Navadvip. Everything was lush from the rainy season, and the devotees found their romantic expectations of India now being fulfilled as they proceeded along roads lined with tropical vegetation. At the Devananda Mutt, Prabhupada and his disciples were given special prasadam and good accommodation. Then the rains returned. Day after day, the rains came, and the Ganges rose higher and higher until crossing the swift river into Mayapur became impossible. Since the rains were not likely to abate soon, Prabhupada decided to leave. He and his disciples boarded an early morning train to Kolkata. The tracks were flooded. Repeatedly, the train had to stop, once for more than 8 hours. The heat and the crowds of passengers constantly passing through the car made the wait torturous for the devotees. Prabhupada asked one of his disciples to take a rickshaw and try to arrange better transportation. Nothing was available. At last, the train continued towards Kolkata, only to stop at the next station where all the passengers changed to another train. Finally, Prabhupada reached Kolkata and Mr. Das Gupta's house. Maybe Lord Chaitanya does not want us to establish our headquarters in Mayapur, Prabhupada said. The two purposes in his mind, establishing a place in Kolkata and purchasing land in Mayapur, he had not accomplished. Prabhupada continued holding programs in people's homes and talking with guests in his room. One day, Mr. Dhandaria visited Prabhupada and mentioned Bombay's upcoming Sadhu Samaj, the gathering of the most important sadhus in India. It was to be held in Chowpatty Beach and promised to be a big affair. Mr. Dhandaria requested Prabhupada to attend, and Prabhupada accepted. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Vijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Jana Jaya Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Rama जय श्री श्री राधा गिरिधर जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय श्री श्री गौरताज की जय श्री प्रभुपाद जय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेव ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी Hare Krishna, today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 10, entitled Maharaj Rahugana Meets Jadavarat, text 25. Na vikriya vishvasuhet sakasya samye navita bhimate stavati mahadvimana svakrita dhimadrin namshadhyadhuradapi sulapani न विक्रिया विश्वसुहृत् सकस्य साम्येन वीता विमते स्तवापि महद्विमानं स्वकृताधिमाद्रिम् नश्यत्यधुरात्रपि शूलपाः न विक्रिया विश्वसुहृत् सकस्य साम्येन वीता विमते स्तवापि महद्विमानात् स्वकृताधिमाद्रिम् नश्याद्यधुरादपि शूलपाणि प्रभु प्रिया विश्वसुहृत् सकस्य नश्यद्यधुरादपि शूलपाणि न विक्रिया विश्वसुहृत् सकस्य Saye Navika Dimate Mahadvimanam Swakrita Dimadri Namsha Yadu Yatishunapani Kriya Vishwasuhrit Sakasya Samyena Vika Dimate Stavapi Mahat Vimana Swakrita Dimadri Nakshatya Duradapi Sunapani. Word for word translations. Na, not. Vikriya, material transformation. Vishwa Sukhrit, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is a friend to everyone. Sakasya, of you, the friend. Samyena, because of your mental equilibrium. Vita Abhimate, one who has completely forsaken the bodily concept of life. Tava, your, api, indeed, Mahat Vimana, of insulting a great devotee, Swakrita, from my own activity. He, certainly, Madrik, a person like me, Namshati, will be destroyed. Adura, very soon. Api, certainly. Sulapanihi, even though as powerful as Lord Shiva, Sulapani. Here, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Oh, my dear Lord, you are the friend of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the friend of all living entities. You are therefore equal to everyone, and you're free from the bodily conception. Although I have committed an offense by insulting you, I know that there is no loss or gain for you due to my insult. You are fixed in your determination, and I have committed an offense. Because of this, even though I may be as strong as Lord Shiva, I shall be vanquished without delay due to my offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Purport: Maharaj Rahugana was very intelligent and conscious of the inauspicious effects arising from insulting a Vaishnava. He was therefore very anxious to be excused by Jadabharat. Following in the footsteps of Maharaj Rahugana, everyone should be very cautious not to commit an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur in Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya 13 says, Sulapani samayadi bhakta ninda kore bhagavata pramana tatapi shighara more ena vaishnavera ninda sarvagya hoy se janera adapata sarva sastra koi. Even if one is as strong as Lord Shiva, who carries a trident in his hand, one will nonetheless fall down from his spiritual position if he tries to insult the Vaishnava. That is the verdict of all Vedic scriptures. He also says that in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya 22, Vaishnavera ninda kori bhekayara ghan tara raksha samadya nahika konajan sulapani samayadi Vaishnavera ninde tatapiha nashaya kohe shastra vrinde iha namani yesu jana ninda kore janme janme se papishta deva dosha more. One who blasphemes a Vaishnava cannot be protected by anyone. Even if a person is as strong as Lord Shiva, if he blasphemes a Vaishnava, he is sure to be destroyed. This is the verdict of all Shastra. If one does not care for the verdict of the Shastra and dares blaspheme a Vaishnava, he suffers life after life because of this. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 10th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Discussion Between Jadabharat and Maharaj Rahugana. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakrumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vansha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatpati Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataram Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya. Hare Krishna. So today we continue discussing the pastimes of Maharaj Rahugana and his meeting with Jadabharat. So this is the last verse of the chapter. We've seen how Maharaj Rahugana had insulted Jadabharat, criticized Jadabharat, chastised Jadabharat, and then finally Jadabharat instructs him on starting with the basic principles from Atma Tattva. And hearing Jadabharat speak, Maharaj Raghugana could understand. For a moment, he was overcome by the mode of passion, so he acted in such a way, but then came back to his senses. He realized, oh, this is not an ordinary person. He's a self-realized person, so he realized his mistake, and he was trying to repent. Here, Srila Prabhupada gives us a warning. It says, following in the footsteps of Maharaj Rahugana, everyone should be very cautious not to commit this offense of Vaishnava aparadha. So, in the performance of devotional service, I'm sure we've all experienced times where we are chanting and we're not relishing sometimes. So we're not relishing the holy name, or we lose taste for the holy name, we lose taste for serving devotees, reading scriptures, or sometimes we're just doing things mechanically. And sometimes we find sometimes many people come easily to the movement, sometimes someone comes easily. But then many people also just leave. After a few years, you find different faces, familiar faces that you knew a few years ago aren't there anymore. So one of the reasons is, or one of the important reasons is aparad. Where aparad means, can be broken up into aradhana. Aradhana means worship or service. And aradhana, refers to apagata. Apagata means to go far away, to become distant from devotion. So activities that bring us away from devotional service, far from devotional service, are called aparad. And every morning after Mangalarti, we recite the 10 offenses that are to be avoided. Sometimes we just mechanically, I want to learn 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But something to remember, because at the beginning we chant Bahujanma Koriyadi, Shavana Kirtanam, Tabutanapai, Krishna Padi Premadana. And so if one is infested with these 10 offenses, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many births, the life after life will come back, chant Hare Krishna, commit offenses, but will never get the love of God. That is the desired result. So out of the 10, you find the first offense, most important, comes first. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, this devotional service is considered like a creeper. And this creeper, the seed of this creeper is very, very rarely achieved. Brahmanda Brahmate Koni Bhagyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Latabi. Just by the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna, after going through millions of births, we get this seed of the creeper of devotional service. And we understand that this creeper has to be, the seed has to be planted in a fertile ground, watered by the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam. And when this creeper grows, it's very, very delicate. Sometimes you can get small animals coming and destroying the creeper. So we put up a fence around the creeper to protect the creeper. And this fence is the association of devotees. So this fence, depending on the strength of the fence, sometimes some animals can come in. And small animals, when they come in, they might destroy a branch or take away some leaves. But sometimes a big animal might come in, sort of like an elephant breaks down that fence and tramples all over the garden. The creeper will be completely flattened. A small animal comes, you might still be able to, a few leaves are gone, the creeper will take some time, but will grow again. But an elephant will just crush everything. The leaves will dry up. So there are many offenses. They are like these small animals. They damage the creeper a little bit. But this offense of Vaishnava Aparad is known as Hatimata, the mad elephant offense. The mad elephant can just trample and completely destroy our bhakti. So therefore it is the most important offense to avoid. With those who do gardening, you know how much trouble you take, how much effort it takes. It's so much effort, and in a moment, something comes and destroys it. You feel it's a great loss. Now, so why of all the aparads, why is this Vaishnava aparad very special? Why is it so severe, such a heavy reaction? Because we understand that Vaishnavas are very dear to Krishna. Narottam Das Thakur, he sings his famous bhajan, Ebaro Karuna. So he says, Hari stane aparade, tare hari naam. Tomastane aparade, nahi paritra. Hari stane aparade. If you offend Krishna, the holy name can deliver you. But Tomar, if one offends the Vaishnava he's singing about, he says there is no hope. Then he explains in the next line why. He says, Tomara hridaye sada Govinda Vishra Govinda ko he namora Vaishnava para Tomara hridaye sada Govinda Vishra, because Krishna resides in the heart of the pure devotee. And Krishna says that the pure devotees are in my heart. I know no one, they are my life and soul. So if someone's so dear to Krishna, the dearest person to Krishna, if we offend that person, then that will be the greatest offense. In the pastime of Durvasa Muni and Ambarish Maharaj, there is famous verses explaining the similar. Because Durvasa Muni he's tried approaching different personalities in this universe and nobody can help him, and he goes to Vishnu. And Vishnu says, sorry, I can't help you. Because I'm not independent. The Sudarshan Chakra, yes, it came from me, but I don't have control over it. I'm supposed to be Swarat, completely independent, but I have no independence. I've surrendered my independence to my devotees. Why? Because the devotees know no one but me, and I know no one but I am in their hearts, and they are in my heart. I don't know anyone else but my devotee, and my devotee doesn't know anyone. So here King Rahugana, he's glorifying Jadabharat. Jadabharat is a self-realized soul. He's not affected by this insults and this aparat. Pure devotees, they're not offended because they're not in this bodily concept. They're not worried about these offenses, or having offenses committed to them. So he says, there's no loss or gain for you due to my insult. But he knows that if he doesn't make up for this, then he will suffer, because he says, I might be as strong as Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva is expansion of Krishna. And even him, if he does commits an offense, he will have to suffer. So he knows his position, that he has done something, a great offense, and he's trying to repent for it. offense to a Vaishnava aparad. There are different categories of offense. There are different classifications of offense. Srila Prabhupada quotes from Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sanatana Goswami, and Hari Bhakti Vilas, they're taken from Skanda Puran, 6 types of offenses against a Vaishnava. So Srila Prabhupada explains this in the pastime between of Amoga, when Amoga offends Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that particular pastime, Prabhupada explains this. So in that, from Skanda Purana, it says that one who offends a Vaishnava, he loses the results of his pious activities, his opulence, his sons, and he gets banished to a hell called Maharaurava. And he doesn't go there alone, he goes there with all his forefathers. This Vaishnava Aparadha doesn't affect us, it affects the entire generation. So the 6 types of offenses one can commit against a Vaishnava. So one is to blaspheme a Vaishnava. The other one is to kill a Vaishnava, to be envious of a Vaishnava, to become angry at a Vaishnava, to not offer respects, and to not be joyful when you see a Vaishnava. So those are, from Skanda Puran, those are 6 ways of, or 6 types of Vaishnava Puran. And there are some famous examples. So I'm sure we can think of many examples of a devotee being blasphemed. Not personal examples, but from the scriptures. So I'm sure there are many examples. The one that's famously given is Daksha blaspheming Lord Shiva. When he goes into the assembly hall and everyone gets up to offer their respects to Daksha, except Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva was busy doing or meditating on Krishna. So that he is not required to stand up to offer his obeisances to Daksha because he's meditating on Krishna. Which is like, when the curtains open or close, if you're discussing Krishna Katha, then there is no need for everyone to offer obeisances. The curtain opens, closes. That's non-different. So Daksha got very angry out of pride, ego. How come everyone is offering obeisances except Lord Shiva? Because he didn't realize Lord Shiva is a pure devotee. Vaishnavanam yata sambhu. He thought he's just my son-in-law. He should offer respect. And he criticized him so much. I shouldn't have got him married to my daughter. This guy is always covered with ashes in a dirty place. His friends are hobgoblins. The daughter's so beautiful. Her eyes are like, is it peacocks, or I forget what the description was. He compared Lord Shiva to a monkey. He said, I gave my daughter to a monkey. How offensive is that? So like this, then he had to suffer. He had to lose his head. He had his head replaced. So that's an example of blaspheming a Vaishnava, but there's so many other examples. Scripture. An example of Vaishnava aparad by a devotee was killed. Yes. He's trying to, but he didn't kill. So even for that, he suffered so much to get killed. So the example is given is Lord Indra killing Vritasura. So though he came in the body of a demon, he was actually a devotee. And Lord Indra killed Vritasura, and then he had to perform thousands of years of penance to overcome that offense. And someone who's envious of a devotee, and there are many examples. Common example that's given from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes is during the early days of Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan pastimes, he would perform these special secret Sankirtan in the house of Srivas Thakur, or Srivas Anga. So every night they'll have this nocturnal Kirtan, Prem Nam Kirtan. And not everyone was invited. It was only the exalted devotees who would go there to relish special mellow. And there are many people who are envious, like, oh, why aren't we invited there? What are they doing? So some of them will be spreading rumors, oh, they're all doing all sorts of nonsensical activities in there. And there's one devotee by the name of Gopal Chapal who was very envious. So he wanted to defame Srivas Thakur. So one night when the kirtan was going on, what he did was he put an offering outside his house with alcohol and meat and his offering to Durga. And he left it outside his house so that he wanted everyone to think that they're actually worshippers of Durga. The next morning, Srivas Thakur came and then he found his offering there. And everyone in the village had gathered and they were wondering what's going on. Srivas Thakur is a Vaishnava, he's not bothered by this offense. He said, oh, you see, this is what we're doing whole night. We're worshipping Durga, Kali. So hoping that people will think they're worshipping Durga and they won't disturb them. But the villagers, they knew that Srivas Thakur was a great Vaishnava and somebody had done this to defame him. As Gopal Chapal, he contracted leprosy. And once he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the road and he was pleading to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please give me your mercy. And Mahaprabhu said no. Maybe second time he went and Mahaprabhu said, look, you have offended Srivas Thakur, you have to go and beg for his forgiveness. And he went to Srivas Thakur, offered his obeisances, and Srivas Thakur embraced him. Because he didn't take any offense even from the beginning. And immediately he got cured of his leprosy. And he became a wonderful devotee. So that's someone who was envious. How about someone who's angry with a devotee from the scripture? Yes, yeah. And again, Daksha suffered. Another example is given as Sabri Muni offended Garuda. And then he had to suffer. Later on, he had to marry many beautiful women and suffered. And then someone who didn't offer respect. Yes, Rama Srinasutta. And yeah, and then he got killed. The other example is Indra, who didn't respect his guru, Brihaspati. And then he had to suffer again. And the sixth type is to not feel joyful on seeing a devotee. So that's sometimes like, oh, this devotee. You go to a program and you see someone, you're like, oh, what's he doing here? What's she doing here? So even that is considered a great Vaishnava aparad. Because again, devotees we take it for granted because so many devotees around us, but you look at the population of the world and the population of devotees, how a very rare species. It's not easy to have. It's a rare opportunity to get to see devotees. So we should be really happy. We should be thankful. Seeing a devotee, thankful to Krishna. So, yeah, so next time you see a devotee, any devotee, you see, if not, that becomes an aparad. So 6 main ways in which this Vaishnava aparad manifests. And how to avoid this aparad, we saw from the analogy of the bhakti creeper. The main thing was to put up a fence protect against these animals, and that fence is devotees, association of devotees. And so that's the positive. The negative is to give up the association of non-devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Asat Sangatyaga e Vaishnava Acha. And that's one of the 6 nectar of instruction. There's 6 principles that destroy bhakti. And one of them is all the Asat Sanga, Atyahara. You remember the verse? Sister, Prajalpo Niyamagraha, Jana Sangha Shalaulam. So Jana Sangha, to give up the association of non-devotees. There's the association of non-devotees and all these dirty things come up and we start, that's the hallmark of materialistic association. We start criticizing people, we start looking at everything from a material perspective, then we fall into the trap of offending devotees. So the best way to do that is to associate with devotees, always keeping the association of devotees. And the other thing is to always remain humble, because our process is to constantly chant Krishna's name. And the only way to do that, to understand, is Tangadapi Sunichena, Taroreva Sahishna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. The only way we'll be able to constantly chant is if we become humble, tolerant, we offer respects to everyone. And that comes with the association of devotees. Automatically, we're taught to be humble. We come in the association of devotees, especially more advanced devotees. They're always talking about Krishna or the spiritual master. When we associate with them, hear from them, we realize how great Krishna is, how great spiritual master is, pure devotees are, and then automatically our position, we understand our position and we become humble. And so many other ways to become humble, to always serve devotees, always use an opportunity wherever there's opportunity to serve devotees in any way. The other thing is to glorify devotees. That always helps. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when someone criticized him, he said, I've told so many things about him, can you say one good thing about him? But if you're just looking at the good things, then the glorification cannot be just lip service, or someone comes up to me and says, oh, Prabhu, you're a wonderful cook, and that's I know. Take some rice and burn a few sabji. So it's got to be heartfelt. We can always glorify devotees, even if we don't tell them in our heart. We can think when you see the devotee, Prabhu, you saw Mahachandra Prabhu every Saturday he's here with his family and staying the whole morning doing so much service. So when you see the devotees, automatically these things about the devotee will come. Otherwise, you can just remember the negative things about that person. So yeah, and glorifying devotees, serving devotees, helps us be humble. When I first met devotees, the etiquette would be to, whenever we see a devotee, would offer obeisances. I myself am not doing that very often these days, but it doesn't seem to be happening too often. Maybe there are too many devotees now, so you'll be just from the entrance to the temple here, you'll be offering obeisances 20, 30 times. But still, that's something to do. If just few devotees are there, that's always good. Instead of Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hari Bol Prabhu, Hari, what do you call that? Dandavats Prabhu, Dandavats. You can do that over the phone or message. If you're seeing a person, you don't need to say it, you just do it. So as many times as you can. And, one time, a number of years ago, we met a spiritual master in Vrindavan during Kartik time. And we went to a few different places, parikrama. That one particular day, we were going to leave to the airport. So we offered our obeisances to all the devotees, and then we left. And then we realized we had a bit of time, so we joined the parikrama in different places. Every time we left, I'd offer obeisance. After the first 2 times, I was getting a bit, said, okay, we've already offered. And then spiritual master, His Holiness Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, offer your obeisances again. He said, just keep offering your obeisances because it makes you humble. So that's something we can do, and we can maybe not in a big, there are too many devotees, it'll be difficult for you to keep offering, but when you do meet, and then instead of verbally, dandavat, offer your way, don't need to say it, just do it. As in many things in our Vaishnava culture, actually, I'm meant to bring out the humility. There's something that one sannyasi by the name of Bhakti Nityananda Maharaj, he was a disciple of His Holiness Jayapadala Maharaj. In Mayapur, I think he's left his body. So he was once describing the pastime of Raghunath Das Goswami. Just, I think we were going to observe it in Singapore or something. I told him about it, and he just spontaneously started describing the pastime. And then he was mentioning how Raghunath Das Goswami he had an uttari or chadar, he had it maybe on his head or something. And the minute he saw Nityananda Prabhu, before he went in front of Nityananda Prabhu, he put the chadar on his shoulder, and then he offered his obeisance. Then Maharaj explained that wearing uttari on the shoulder is a sign of humility. So you never come before the Lord or your devotees without that. So it's not meant as a fashionable item, or it has got a significance to it, and it's supposed to be, he explained, was to develop humility, because he said a servant usually wears it on his shoulder, whereas a king might wear it on the head like a turban. A lot of things in our culture that subtly help us develop that humility. So that's a few things we can do to avoid this Vaishnava aparadh. One more thing, the last thing, is to avoid hearing or associating with people who commit Vaishnava aparadh. So if someone is committing Vaishnava aparadh or even speaking something, blaspheming a devotee, just being in that, in his presence and not saying anything also makes you liable to experiencing the ill effects of Vaishnava aparadh. So if you do hear something, the instruction is to leave immediately. Parvati explains, Mother Parvati explains a few other things. She says you can either cover your ears and leave the place, or kill the person and kill yourself. So those two things will not be practical. You shouldn't. The devotee shouldn't even kill an ant, so what to speak about? And you don't want to commit anything that's against the law of the country. So best to just cover ears and walk away. So some things we can do to avoid Vaishnava aparadh. And if somehow we end up committing Vaishnava aparadh, then what can we do to mitigate that? So we see what Maharaj Rahugana is doing. He's going to the person he offended, his Jadabharat, offering his obeisances and begging for forgiveness. So begging for forgiveness is just one part of it, because that can just be lip service. Oh, Prabhu, please forgive me. But if you sincerely mean it, then we should do something. There should be some activity. So you either serve that person, offer a gift, serve prasad. And in some cases, in some situations, different pastimes, Mahaprabhu's pastimes, when they find that they've offended a devotee, they actually surrender to that devotee and they take instruction from that. Many examples of that. One famous example, just to show that even if you are related to the personality of Godhead, even if your mother of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you commit an offense, you will not be forgiven. unless the person you offended forgives you. So we understand how Sachimata, in her mind, she didn't even think it. She just, in her mind, she was a bit upset with Advaita Acharya. Because Advaita Acharya and her eldest son, Vishwarup, they were very close. And she felt through Advaita Acharya's association, Vishwarup developed detachment, vairagya, and he left and became sannyasi. So in her mind, she was thinking, this Advaita, in his name only he's Advaita. Advaita means non-dual, but actually he is Advaita, he split me and my son. So she just thought in her mind, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Antaryami, he knows what was going on in Sachimata's mind. And he told her that she can't, that she will not be forgiven for this offense. She said, how can I be forgiven? So you have to go and follow the feet of Advaita Acharya. The Advaita Acharya considered Sachimata like his mother of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So she was thinking, how will I do this? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, look, I'll invite him once. And when he offers his obeisances, then you take the dust from his lotus feet. That way you can be saved from this Vaishnava Parana. A few other examples. Oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, so many examples. There's another pastime of Devananda Pandit. So many pastimes just for the nectarian pastimes. We'll just discuss one part. So Devananda Pandit, he was a great scholar. Was a bit an impersonalist. So he used to give Bhagavatam discourses, and he had his own followers who would come and appreciate his impersonal understanding of Bhagavatam. And Srivas Thakur once, he happened to be in that assembly, and he heard the verses of Bhagavatam, and he went into ecstasy and was displaying the eightfold ecstatic symptoms. And Devananda Pandit's disciples, what they did was they thought, oh, this person, he's having ecstatic symptoms and he's disturbing the class. So they carried him and they threw him outside. And Devananda Pandit's offense was that he didn't stop them from doing it. So after that, he was chastised by Mahaprabhu for his preaching of Bhagavatam without any reference to bhakti. And he completely lost, he was complete impersonalist. But one time he had the association of Vakreshwar Pandit. And just by association of a pure devotee, he started getting this little bit of taste for bhakti. And then he became, his heart changed and he sort of gave up his impersonal tendencies and he was leaning towards bhakti. And he approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused to give him mercy. And then he said, first you offended Srivas Thakur, so please go and offer your obeisances to him. And if he forgives you, then you'll be able to. So then he went and he met Srivas Thakur. And again, Srivas Thakur was not offended initially. I mean, he didn't take offense at all. But when Devananda Pandit offered his obeisances, he accepted it. And Devananda Pandit went on to become a great exalted Vaishnava. So even if he committed an offense, because he had served and he had the association of Vakreshwar Pandit, he managed to get a bit of tinge of bhakti and get some mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then once he offered his obeisances to Srivas Pandit, then he became Srivas Thakur. Then he managed to get pure love of God. So it's easy if you know who you offended, then you can go and beg for forgiveness, serve that person, take instructions. But if you're like me, you probably have offended a lot of people. I don't know who you offended. So then what do we do? Different things. One is we can just serve all Vaishnavas, whoever you see, whenever you get an opportunity, serve devotees, so that Krishna can square it up. And for all you know that, again, if you're a serial offender, you'd have offended so many devotees when you're serving so many devotees. Someone there would have been someone who would have been a recipient of your aparad, and he might forgive you because of your nice service. So we constantly try to serve all Vaishnava, and that way we might be able to get relief from the effects of Vaishnava aparad that we committed. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, there are two special benedictions that aren't given anywhere else to overcome Vaishnava aparad. Because otherwise it's just approaching that person, apologizing to him, or serving devotee. So Chaitanya Bhagavat gives two other special concessions. So one is, so this is the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructing Sachimata after she mentally had the offensive thoughts about Advaita Acharya Prabhu. So the first one is, only by the causeless mercy of the name, form, and pastimes of Lord Nityananda, one's offenses against Vaishnavas are destroyed and one obtains devotional service of the Lord. So constantly remember Nityananda, chant Nityananda's name on top of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And Nityananda Tattva is Guru Tattva. So we constantly serve the spiritual master, but specifically reading Chaitanya Bhagavat. And the second one, it says, one who listens to the pastimes of Sachimata and how she got delivered from the offense. That itself will allow us to be delivered from the offense. So two extra things that Vrindavan Das Thakur, two benedictions, did. So read Chaitanya Bhagavat, pastimes of Nityananda Prabhu, and to read this pastime of how Sachimata got delivered from that offense. So those are ways that we can mitigate the offense. So we saw how we can prevent committing the offense if we have what we can do. The third thing is, does that mean we can see things going on that aren't right and not speak up about it? We just ignore everything? Sometimes you don't want to criticize a devotee, but someone needs to tell him who's going to. So there are some occasions where the person can be not criticized, but the fault can be pointed out. But there are very few occasions like that. And it has to be done. The only reason it's done is when there's a good intention. I think in the past we might have discussed this. So one is if you're in a position of authority. So if you're a spiritual master, or you're a leader of some sorts and you've got some authority, then you can correct the person. Because you're doing that with good intention, not out of pride or envy. The other thing is if it's for the benefit of the general devotees. So we discussed in the pastimes of Jagai and Madha and pastimes of all these devotees who have offended. So in a way, we are also offensive. We're criticizing these devotees we're talking about. But we're not criticizing them for the sake of criticizing them. We're discussing them for the sake of learning so that we don't commit those Vaishnava aparadhas. So in that sense, we can discuss these four. And the third thing is if a devotee has a special relationship with another devotee, and he accepts him as his well-wisher, and he might be able to correct him or give him something. So very specific reasons. Otherwise, if we see things going on, instead of blaspheming or telling half the congregation about it, we just go and tell the leader or the person who's in charge and say, look, this is happening, and he might be able to go and deal with that if he's in a position of authority. So it's in Hari Bhakti Vilas, it says Vaishnavas are so rare, and seeing a Vaishnava is, you have as good as a fortune as seeing Lord Hari himself. So an example is also given in the desert. If you find just a glass of water in the desert, how much relief you'll get. So Vaishnavas are like that. They're very rare and they're very dear to Krishna. So let's appreciate all Vaishnava and try to protect this delicate creeper of bhakti. And you're struggling so hard to maintain this creeper. Let's not find any way to make it harder than it already is. So we'll end here. I take this opportunity. This has sort of reminded me again about myself. I am sure I've offended many devotees, so I take this opportunity to offer my obeisances and my apologies to all devotees that I've hurt or offended over all these years, whoever they are. So we'll stop here, and if there are any questions, comments, or realization, like everyone's got a lot of realizations about this. So just for the devotees who are on Zoom, so you're asking if sometimes you might be in your own world, and then someone comes and you don't greet them, or you're not happy to see them, you get an offense. So in a scripture called well, actually, it's yes, just saying Hare Krishna. It's the other way around. Actually, to not feel happy when you see a devotee. So if you see a devotee and you just Hare Krishna, you acknowledge, at least you acknowledge that person. That point. But if you're like, hey, this Mataji, what's she doing here? So at least saying Hare Krishna, depending on the situation, you might not offer your obeisances for Hare Krishna, or at least acknowledging a devotee, as compared to like, you hate that person, you won't even look at him when he comes in. There should be no envy. Yeah. You say Hare Krishna. Yeah. So there's some people who, if you have such animosity, you won't even say Hare Krishna to that person. And that's good. There's a pastime of Rupa Goswami, where he was in meditation thinking of Radha Krishna's pastimes, and something happened in that pastime and he laughed. And at that time, a lame devotee, I think he was lame, he was limping and he was coming. And Rupa Goswami was smiling or laughing, and he felt that Rupa Goswami was laughing at him because he's a lame person. So he went to Sanatana Goswami and complained because he took offense. He said, Rupa Goswami is such an elevated devotee. Why would he be laughing at me like this? You don't be looking at my bodily deformity. Then Sanatana Goswami explained to him. And then he understood, he felt he was offensive because he actually falsely mistook Rupa Goswami as the intention. But at the same time, Rupa Goswami, when he was having that ecstatic moment, seeing Radha Krishna's pastime, suddenly that just went out of his meditation. He couldn't enjoy that ecstasy anymore. And he was wondering what happened. He thought, okay, something must have happened when I was in meditation. Something must have happened and I must have caused some offense to someone, which is why I lost that bliss. So he went to Sanatana Goswami and he told him this. And then Sanatana Goswami said, no, we meet each other. this is what happened. So that maybe it was Krishna Das is his name, the lame devotee, and he offered his obeisance to Rupa Goswami and he said, sorry, please forgive me that I've offended you. And then Rupa Goswami said, no, 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 I have offended you because I laughed. So even unknowingly, since he was not laughing at that. But so we've got to be very careful. So even so, it's not whether you meant it as an aparad. If the devotee took it as an aparad, then that's enough to make you suffer the reaction. So if you're angry with someone else and somebody comes up to you and just looks at you and they feel, oh, he's angry with me, then but if they feel offended, then you still have, well, from the pastime of Rupa Goswami, it sounds like you have to also still, so better we try to serve devotees at whatever opportunity we can. Then we can, Krishna will square it up. Yeah, Katwa is something where actually a few of these pastimes happened there where they got forgiven was in one of those places. Maybe Kulinagram, maybe I don't know. No, it starts with K. And there are quite a few devotees who were forgiven in that place. Yeah. We just you can't offend someone and just go. Yeah, you can. Again, going to the place is not just the physical place, but going to the place means you realize the pastime, you understand this happened and how they got forgiven for their offenses by doing this. So then we meditate on the pastime. Then that gives us the benefit of not. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Vancha Kalpatu Vishnu Kripasandu Chaitanya Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Prema.